Can you talk about what the real issues are? Sure. And just for context, guys, she asked a question about a video where I said racism and white supremacy are not our biggest issues in the Black community. One of the top issues is going to be having households that aren't with two parents. So not having a father in the home. I could go through the differences of children that have one parent compared to two parents and how they turn out on average. I could go through those differences, but that's probably a whole other video. For simple context, children with one parent tend to do far worse than children with two, especially if there's no father. The next one I would say would be baby mama culture, right? So a bunch of people are having children with a bunch of other people who are also having a bunch of other children, but none of these people are staying together, so they're having a bunch of children that do not have two-parent households. So baby mama culture, which also correlates back to two-parent households. The next would be a culture that doesn't focus hard on education. There are parts of the Black community that definitely do. I'm not saying there's not, but as a whole, we need to be better about this. For me personally, I've heard a lot of other Black people say this as well. Black people are the only people that have ever tried to poke fun at me about being well-spoken. That's interesting. And it was usually young men. It was never adults. It was young men. So far we talked about two-parent households, hookup culture, and then lack of focus on education. 4, I think there's a major lack of accountability currently going on in our communities. Too many of us are busy pointing fingers at other things instead of focusing on ourselves and bettering ourselves. And I think this is a massively underrated part of successful people and successful cultures, nations, empires, however you want to put it. Next part would be living in the past. We love, and I mean love, to live in the past and talk about how bad we were done and what was done to us in the past. Knowing history is great, right? But we're not acquiring new skills and figuring out new ways to make money and participate in the modern economy by focusing all of our energy, or a large part of our energy, on the historic things that happened. Every race in the world, every people in the world were done wrong by other people. We know this. So rather than moving on, we tend to focus too much energy on that, and it's just holding us back. We need to learn more so how to acknowledge that happened, accept that it was bad, and now focus on building instead of worrying about that and living back in that time frame. In addition to that, I think too many of us are far too emotional. We react emotionally, and I think that's why you see us compared. Now, I'm not sure about this, I'm gonna guess here, but I would say Black Americans versus almost any other race when it comes to voting and how they vote are so heavily skewed one way. I think all the other races are more balanced. I think right now we're highly emotional, and I think a lot of politicians know that, and they know they can just say things that get us emotionally riled up, and we will run to vote for what those people want because they told us stuff that got us emotionally driven in the direction they wanted. So the next part would be, I think we're way too emotionally driven and we're not thinking for ourselves in the way that we should be.